The bright, sharp morning sunlight washed over the small community library where Guaps was quietly organizing books on an outdoor shelf. Without warning, a heavy shadow fell across her. She turned to find Uncle Joe standing over her, dressed in an expensive but tacky lace outfit, tightly gripping a sleek leather briefcase. The morning light caught the glint of his gold tooth as he looked down at her. "Working for free?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. "I thought Asha taught you how to chase money, not dust." Guap's eyes narrowed. Pages of a book fluttered idly in the wind between them, but her posture remained rigid. "Good girls stay quiet," she thought bitterly. "Good girls do what family asks. I used to be a very good girl." Uncle Joe gestured for her to follow him inside, and within the dim library office, where dust motes danced lazily in the sunbeams filtering through a small window, he slammed a thick legal document onto the wooden desk with a heavy thud.
"Read this,"
Uncle Joe commanded. "It's the deed for this entire block. I need your scholarship brain to find the loophole that lets us clear these squatters out." Guaps looked down at the paper. Bold letters stared back at her. Koru District Redevelopment Act. As her eyes scanned the lines, she instantly spotted a glaring error. The name of the library's elderly founder, Mr. Balogun, had been misspelled intentionally. Uncle Joe didn't want an intellectual. He wanted an accomplice. Refusing to let him see her shaken, Guaps pushed past him into the main room, her face set in a hard, determined line. By afternoon, under a blindingly harsh sun, Guaps arrived at the front yard of the Aderin house. Her mother, Rebecca, was busy washing clothes in a large plastic tub, the sound of splashing water and wet fabric slapping against plastic filling the air. Guaps approached her quickly, her voice urgent. "Ma, Uncle Joe is trying to steal the library land. He's using fake deeds." Rebecca froze. She didn't look up at her daughter. Instead, she stared down at the soapy water, her shoulders locking with tension. The world around them seemed to fall completely silent, save for the rhythmic buzz of distant cicadas.
"Joe is the reason we still have this roof over our heads, Gwen,"
Rebecca said quietly, refusing to meet her gaze. "Mind your business." Guaps stepped back, a cold wave of shock and hurt washing over her. In Koru City, compliance was a currency, and right now, Guaps was completely broke. Seeking relief from the heat, she walked inside, only to find Phoebe sitting on the couch, watching her coldly through the dark reflection of her phone screen. The room was stifling, and beads of sweat stood out on Phoebe's forehead. As a notification chimed on her phone, Phoebe sneered.
"You think you're better than us now because you went to Asha. If Uncle Joe says sign, you sign."
A low rumble of distant thunder echoes as the sun begins to set. Driven from her own home, Guaps walked the streets as a deep orange sunset casts long monstrous shadows across the dirt roads. Near the library, she met Mr. Balogun, who looked incredibly frail as he leaned heavily on his walking stick, dry leaves cracking under his feet.
"They offered me money, daughter,"
the old man said softly, his eyes filled with sorrow.
"When I said no, they threatened to burn the books."
Guaps clenched her fist so tightly her knuckles turned white. The bleeding sunset turned her silhouette into a stark, sharp figure against the darkening sky. Fear was a virus in this community, but her anger was turning into an engine. Later that night, the family home grew dark and quiet. In her old room, lit only by the pale glow of a cheap rechargeable lantern, Guaps sat on her bed with her old laptop open. She was scanning a digital copy of the land registry she had secretly brought with her from Asha. Her fingers clicked rapidly across the keyboard as she found what she was looking for. "It's not just the library," she whispered into the empty room. "He's trying to take our house too." Suddenly, the lantern light flickered and died, plunging the room into absolute shadow. Guaps froze. Through the dark, she heard it, the distinct, soft click of a window latch opening downstairs. Holding her breath, Guaps crept down the stairs, using the dim screen of her phone to illuminate the creaking floorboards. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she stepped into the living room, where moonlight streamed through the window. It illuminated a figure standing by the front door. Guaps gasped. It was Jude, and he was holding a heavy iron rod, his hand shaking with terror. "Jude, what are you doing?" she breathed. Someone was watching the house from a black SUV, Gwen. Jude whispered, his voice cracking, "They've been here all night." Guaps looked past him, peering through the glass window. In the pitch blackness outside, an unmarked vehicle sat idling deeply. Suddenly, its headlights flashed twice, slicing through the dark. The warning shots weren't going to be silent for long. The tense nighttime silence breaks into the cold scraping of cutlery the next morning. The next morning, the bright sun offered no warmth. The mood inside the house was freezing. Uncle Joe was sitting at the dining table, eating breakfast as if he owned the walls around them, while Max nervously served him. The aggressive scrape of cutlery against ceramic plates filled the tense air. Without looking up, Uncle Joe spoke. "Gwen, my driver is outside. You're coming to the ministry with me to stamp those papers today." Guaps sat directly opposite him. She calmly took a sip of water, placed the glass back on the table with a sharp, deliberate click, and stared straight into his eyes. "I read the documents, Uncle. The zoning laws don't permit commercial demolition. I won't stamp it." Uncle Joe stopped chewing. The jovial, laughing uncle persona completely slipped away, leaving his face cold and dangerous. A dead silence descended upon the room. Max froze mid-air, a heavy kettle trembling in his hand.
"Your father owed me everything before he died," Uncle Joe said, his voice dropping to a low, menacing purr. "Don't make me collect his debt from your skin."
Guaps didn't answer. Moments later, she was walking fast down the neighborhood road, her heart pounding erratically against her chest. The sun was blindingly bright, and she could feel hostile eyes watching her from every alleyway. A good girl would have panicked. A good girl would run back to Asha. But Guaps had left her running shoes behind. She hurried to the chaotic Koru market, weaving through the vibrant crowd until she found Tunda, a brave young local journalist, standing under a large, colorful umbrella. Under the cover of the loud market chaos, Tunda discreetly slipped a flash drive into her hand.
"Joe is working with the state commissioner,"
Tundi warned her, his eyes darting around.
if you publish this, they will come after you personally.
By evening, the consequences of her defiance hit home. The warm evening light was fading when Guabs walked into the living room to find Rebecca sobbing uncontrollably. In her trembling hands, she held a legal eviction notice that had been crudely pasted onto their front door. "Look at what your pride has done." Rebecca screamed through her tears. "He's throwing us out." Guabs didn't hesitate. She walked directly up to her mother, gently but firmly took the eviction notice from her hands and tore it squarely in half. The loud rip of paper echoed through the room. "He can't throw us out," Guabs said, her voice echoing with absolute certainty, "because he doesn't own this land, and by tomorrow everyone will know it." A sudden, aggressive roar of a car engine rises, accompanied by a harsh, sweeping, cliffhanger orchestral movement. As night fell, Guab stepped out onto the front porch, looking out into the pitch-black street. Without warning, the silence was shattered by the aggressive rev of a powerful engine. In the shadows, the black SUV's high beams snapped on, blinding her in a wash of harsh, brilliant white light. Standing her ground in the blinding glare, Guabs didn't flinch. "Let them come," she thought.